The left does not want to talk about this, right? And when I say the left, we don't play games on this channel. We're not on that BS, right? We don't play that no true Scotsman BS. When I say the left, I'm talking about the left. I'm not talking about far left, moderately left, center left. I'm talking about left, right? In other words, everyone who's not on the right, right? If you're not on the right, you're on the left, right? That's how the politics works. You get a spectrum, you keep going to the right, you get to the very extremes, you get extreme right, go the other direction, in the middle, you're in the center, you keep going beyond the center, and you find yourself on the left, right? Liberals, they're on the left. They're not leftists, whatever fancy name you want to come up with, but they're definitely on the left, even if moderately so. So you got a lot of people that are different parts of the spectrum who are on the left who they contribute different parts of the problem. So you got the elites, the liberal elites, who these are the highly educated, folks that are making, good money. They're not really that much affected by a lot of the things that they will make a lot of noise about, right? They have this supposed empathy for others, right? So they're worried about homelessness and minimum wage and all these kind of things that many of them don't even fully understand. They may not have ever needed these things. They coming from a middle income, upper middle income family, and they have never needed, never had to worry about minimum wage, never had to worry about how I'm going to pay my bills and all this kind of stuff, right? But then they engage with liberal media, MSNBC, for example, independent media equivalents, and they start talking about, oh, this, and we got to help these people and the homelessness and these right-winger racists, they don't care, blah, blah, blah. And they get, oh, man, that's true. And they get all caught up in it, and they'll go out and they'll do the protesting and all this kind of stuff, not really understanding what the hell they're even talking about, just going along with the motion, right? Latching on to a particular tribe and supporting that tribe. So you have those types that don't really understand, or they may not even necessarily even care that much, right? Because they're separated from, these are not things that affect them, their lives directly. They're getting involved in the middle of things where you have people who, this is not a game for them. People that are struggling, people that are homeless or near homeless, right? Who are at the bottom. This is real deal. And then you got these liberal elites who get involved and try to play savior, right? The end result is programs that may have good intentions behind them try to address a issue that is important. It does affect a lot of people, but it's a half-assed effort because a lot of people that are actually going to be involved in making the rules and coming up with the plans are disconnected. You got liberal elites in independent media and corporate media, making six-figure income as an influencer, or you're up there, you're making $80,000-$90,000, doing whatever you're doing, and you're sitting here talking to working class people, poor people, right? Talking to people in the hood about racism and all this kind of stuff and inequality, things that you don't necessarily know anything about, right? Because you're a liberal elite. But since you're an elite, you have the money to find yourself sort of the loudest voice, right? You're on liberal media, you're on MSNBC with a loud megaphone talking to so many people. So you're making all this noise talking for people that you don't really necessarily know much about. The actual working class, poor people that you're supposedly advocating for. I say supposedly, I guess you are, but how good is your advocacy if you don't fully understand what it is you're advocating for? You're just like fundamentally like, oh, there's poor people and they shouldn't be homeless, so let's keep them off the streets. You're not really serious about it. You're just kind of going along with the flow, so you don't really take much time to interrogate the actual strategies and plans or the consequences of them. In contrast, people on the right, the Republicans, all they do is that look for problems, right? Make up problems where they can't find a good enough one to complain about. But the bottom line is, their job is to just say, this sucks, and you guys suck, and the Democrats suck. And you got folks that are on the left who also do that, right? They have that's the blue MAGA. They're on YouTube all day making videos, attacking the Democrats and the left all day. Silent about the Democrats' good friends, the Republicans, which reveals their hand, that they're fake, unserious, right? Anyone serious who wants to do something about the duopoly will do something about the duopoly, the two. You can't do something about the duo, right? By only focusing on one side. Anyone serious about attacking the duopoly, shutting it down, restoring power to the people, will focus on the two sides of the problem, not just one. Right? So what does the left not want to talk about? They don't want to talk about the other side of the broken programs that they'll support foolishly, just because, again, unserious. You present a real problem, homelessness. You present a solid argument that we shouldn't have this amount of homelessness in a country like this. We should do something about it. That's true, right? So you start off on a good track, a real problem, a valid statement. We should do something about it. We are capable of doing something about it, right? Then where do you go from there? Rather than come up with a solution yourself, you latch on to existing solutions presented by others without fully interrogating those solutions, whether they're effective or not. What are the pros, what are the cons, right? You latch on to whatever the largest thing that's being talked about in your tribe that addresses the thing that you want to be a champion for, right? So you want to do something about homelessness. And you hear folks that share your ideology talking about, we got this rental forgiveness. You got these evil landlords that want to evict people and put them on the streets, right? So you support that. Yes, let's do this forgiveness. We got to keep people in their homes, right? That's the liberal elites out there saying that stuff. Unserious. So what's the other side of this? Did you know in parts of this country, a homeowner basically doesn't really have any rights if you're as a landlord, as a renter, someone who's renting out your property? I don't mean that as an absolute statement, that would be false, but essentially, and let me give you the full perspective, right? Because it's easy to focus on, and this is the thing, unserious, so you just focus on the caricature of things, right? This image of like landlords being evil geniuses or whatever it is, they're rich, right? If you want everyone to be successful, you want everyone to live the American dream, right? You look at what's happening in the right, conservatives, and you say, man, they are going against what's needed for people to achieve this dream, right? If you are the one, you think you're the real one who's really for the American dream, then you understand the idea of rising um, the tide, shall we say, helping people who are struggling. When people are struggling, they're not able to progress. You don't have time to, you know, go to school or whatever it is. You want to better yourself. How can you better yourself when you're just struggling to survive? If you understand that concept, again, you got to go the full path, right? So let's do things to get people to progress. Let's ease a lot of the suffering to allow people to be able to do what they need to do to progress, right? But then what happens when they progress? So you lift someone up from poverty, they get to a point where you alleviate the homelessness and the food insecurities, and that allows them to pick up a skill, get a better job, make more money. Then they move themselves up the ladder. Now they're no longer poor, they're middle class, right? Maybe even upper middle. Then what? If you're really serious about helping people, you would have thought about this. You wouldn't just think about, yeah, we got to keep people off the streets, and then that's it. You would look at the full path of your plan. So you rise people up. So one of the things that you might want to do, now you have some extra money, want to get people out of struggling and living off of credit. You want to get them into thinking about investing for the future. So an investment could be you buy a multifamily property, right? Allows you to bring in your own money, become less dependent on the government, less dependent on others, right? You saved up and you're able to buy a home and you're able to rent out part of that home. Great, that's awesome, the American dream. But then the left abandons you. Now they want to pretend like you're some kind of you're a rich elite now. Is the idea that you only are concerned about the poor? So you're perfectly fine with the revolving door that, they complain about prisons, which is a valid complaint. In prisons, there's no rehabilitation. You go into prison and then you get out, and then you get back in, you go out, you get back in. And it's like, it's set up that way. But does the left recognize that some of the programs and policies they support do the exact same thing? You rise people out of poverty, get them to a point where they have some financial stability. Now they have a home, they want to rent it out, then you abandon them. Now you treat them like, oh, you're some rich elite, right? So what happens? Homeowners in parts of this country have basically almost no rights. You can have people renting your property, and they basically, your renters take over your property. There's a bunch of regulations and things that you as a homeowner need to do. You gotta make sure you provide a safe place for them to live, repair anything wrong with the house, make sure they have trash bins that they need, recycle bins that they need, all these things. And if you don't do any one of these things, all they got to do is pick up a phone and somebody will show up at your door. They will find you. They'll literally put you in jail. Did you know that you can have a tenant that puts trash in the hallway as a fire hazard, and you can tell them, stop doing it, you got to put it in your apartment, that's not allowed? And they can ignore you and you can keep complaining. And if you go to code enforcement like I did, code enforcement will tell you, we can come and take a look, but if we come and take a look and we see stuff in there that's a fire hazard, we're going to bill you. We're going to fine you, not the tenant. And we can even put you in jail for 10 days. Listen to what I just said. I said the left doesn't want to talk about this. You can have people living in your home. These are not just people who are just struggling and they need help, whatever. These are assholes, right? Let's just call it what it is. You can have assholes living in your home that you spent years, maybe decades, saving to purchase, who can just be doing whatever they want to do. There's only one main thing they can't do, but they can almost anything they want to do. Putting stuff that's a fire hazard. You can ask them like politely, please, you can't keep stuff in the hallway. They can just ignore you. And then on top of that, they can call and report you that you have stuff in the hallway that's a fire hazard. And code enforcement will come and they'll fine you, maybe even put you in jail because your tenant is putting stuff in the hallway that's a fire hazard. The only thing that tenants have to do in certain parts of this country is, it's not even pay the rent. They'll allow you to live without paying the rent as well, right? Only thing you have to do is not commit a crime. And even committing crimes, I would argue that if the crime is small enough, you're probably okay. And technically, I mean, you could sell drugs in somebody's house, right? Because in order for that landlord to do something, he has to provide evidence that you're selling drugs. How do I get evidence that my tenant is selling drugs in his apartment? I can't set up hidden cameras now, can I? So I gotta go and play detective and hide in the bushes with a camera. And I'm not being facetious. That's how it works in court. I can't just make a claim and say my tenant's selling drugs. I gotta be able to prove it to a judge. What, you think a judge is gonna, oh, my tenant's selling drugs? Okay, I gotta have evidence. How do I have evidence? How does anyone ever get evidence in order to have someone charged with a crime like selling drugs? Evidence, right? So now you have someone who's a criminal who doesn't want to go to jail, I'm sure. So therefore you're risking your life as a homeowner. That's what the state requires, to go and capture evidence. So you can go to a court and say, look, they're selling drugs. And hopefully you go and you pull that off. Hopefully you don't get retaliation after the fact. Because I mean, they're selling drugs. I mean, it could be bigger than them just getting evicted, right? So technically speaking, not committing crimes is the one obligation that a tenant has to deal with. You don't have to pay the rent. You don't have to worry about fire safety. You can be trash everywhere, bringing rats. You know, you can just be an absolute nuisance. Do whatever you want to do. Give a middle finger to the landlord, right? I put up signs that says no smoking. Tenant's son comes up to the camera, takes out a cigarette, middle finger. Am I some slumlord that's been really bad to these people and I deserve what this? I just bought the house. I've been nice. I've been respectful. They get to do whatever they want to do. I have to follow the rules. Many, many rules. I have lots of obligations. So that's my reward of working hard, saving money, buying a house. My reward is I get to be treated like a child where, you know, you better do this, you better do that. And I have tenants who are renting from me who are my boss. They don't got to pay rent. They don't got to follow any rules. They don't have to listen to me. They can do whatever they want to do. Now, again, I'm not being absolute. You know, obviously there's limits, and if they're big enough of a nuisance, and I can prove it, eventually I can get them out. Might take some months. But outside of an extreme scenario, they can pretty much do whatever they want to do. Just the very basics, like keeping the hallway clear. They don't got to do it. Who on the left wants to talk about this? Have you ever seen any left-wing or progressive channel talk about the other side of some of the programs that they support? You think this is going to get them clicks? Or is it easy to get clicks by just focusing on, oh, the poor, we got to help the poor, keep them off the streets? And then to accurately point out the right-wing response of basically abandonment of these people. Pull yourself by your bootstraps, right? Let's talk about the right-wing having the incorrect response, and let's focus on the talking points on our side. The homeless people, we're a rich country, right? It's not profitable to get in the weeds and talk about the other side of these programs from a good faith perspective. You talk about the bad faith comments from the right wing, but you don't want to do better. You don't want to lead by example and have a good faith critique of these programs, because a lot of these folks don't care about this stuff. These are the people with the loudest voices. They have money. They're not worried about housing or health care, right? Just like those protesters on January 6th with those costumes, playing soldier or whatever. Such is the liberal elites, the social justice warriors. Who else is willing to tell you the cold hard truth like I just told you? That's not supporting any particular camp, just the raw, unpopular truth that nobody else wants to talk about, right? It's not going to make me famous. I'm not going to get a lot of views from this. I'm saying stuff that both sides don't want to hear. The right doesn't want to hear about their bad faith critiques of these social programs, and the left doesn't want to hear about their short-sightedness, right? Getting all caught up in the, yeah, we're gonna help the poor, obviously that's the right thing to do, right? So much more focused on supporting the rhetoric and the talking points that your camp is pushing out, that you're not so focused on whether these things work, right? The point is just to oppose the other side, right? And to champion whatever the talking points that your side is pushing out there. I don't got a side. My side is the United States of America. My side is we the people, right? So fuck the left and their half-assed bullshit, and fuck the right and their bad faith sitting around pointing fingers and complaining about everything. A lot of stuff that they're doing. Why don't you come up with a better solution rather than just trying to tear everything down? Answer that question.